For small businesses, apprenticeships are such an important source of talent. Small businesses have had a really tough time over the last couple of years, and so to be able to use apprenticeships to develop the skills they need, really, really important.
This is ushering in the era of the skills economy. We do the largest vaccination program in history. This is what this nation is great at. When we spot an opportunity, we drive all the way through it.
I, as an apprentice, learn so much through my employer. I get, my education, but also on-the-ground skills. But at the same time, I bring so much to them. We just come in ready to learn, ready to work, and with so much enthusiasm.
I think these awards are important to everybody else who wins, because it's recognising the work that people have put in at all levels as well, in all different categories. And not only that, it's also recognising the employers, which is really important as well. We need more companies to take on apprentices, and I think being able to recognise employers in this way as well is definitely really important.
It feels absolutely fantastic to win. The last time we won this award was back in 2017, so to win it again is absolutely fantastic.
Being recognised for such great schemes that we run, it's testament to all the apprentices that we've got on scheme currently.
We're absolutely thrilled. It's all about delivering great qualifications and great career opportunity for local residents and also for our staff.
It's been so exciting just to also see the support that I've received in my organisation, but also within the apprentice community. I'm so excited to be here.
It's just such an amazing opportunity to celebrate success of young people, and so inspiring to hear the experiences they've had and what an amazing impact they're making in their different walks of life.
An apprentice is such a worthwhile tool and asset to the company. They can be moulded to how the company works. They can be a real team player in all aspects of it. So 100% I'd recommend it to everybody.
As apprentices, we want to be there. We're so enthusiastic about your business, about what you're doing. There's no way that you could regret it.
Well, good evening, everybody, and I'm Ian from Lloyds Banking Group's Early Careers team, and let me welcome you to Lloyds Careers Live. And I'm joined tonight by my colleague Faye, and we both work for Lloyds Banking Group. And last month, our colleagues Amanda and Shelby took you through careers in customer services. Now, every month, and always the first Tuesday of every month, we focus in on a new career pathway to explore and help you figure out if this could be the right one for you. And tonight, in Lloyds Careers Live, we're excited to be with you exploring careers in data science and data analytics.
Hello.
And I think my colleague Faye will be here. There you are. Yeah, I thought we'd lost you.
I'm here. Like Ian, I also work in our People and Places team. My team bring talent together to work on important activities and critical projects so we can deliver on our priorities as a bank with agility and pace. At Lloyds Banking Group, we work closely with schools across the country, helping students to build the skills they need to thrive in the future world of work. You told us you're aware the world of work is changing and that you want to learn about the new and exciting careers that could become parts of your future. You also said you wanted to connect with people working in these industries to find out what it's like to do these jobs and what it takes to make them part of your career plan.
Indeed. And so with so much change, you let us know that you wanted to explore some of the new and exciting jobs that are growing in popularity and in demand over the next few years. Now, we created this experience to help you connect with people working in these new and exciting jobs to help you understand more about what's involved.
The world of work is always changing, and that is a good thing. I'm sure many of you have phones nearby, which are actually now pretty powerful computers. They can do all kinds of things for us. They are pieces of technology we've learned to use every day and rely on. But if your parents went to school in the 1980s or even the 1990s, they did not have a mobile phone. At best, the piece of tech they had would have been a calculator, and they may have been the proud owner of this little beauty that's coming up on screen, the Casio J1. In real terms, this little device cost about the same as a smartphone does today, but it was anything but smart. It was powered by 2 AA batteries. It had a light-up LED screen, which was great for calculating things in the dark, but very hard to read when the sun was shining. And there was no way to save things. So if you're in the middle of calculating something important and the battery ran out, you lost everything. But at the time, the idea of something so powerful and yet portable was considered revolutionary in helping people to crunch those numbers. Suddenly, in all around the world, things could move much faster and people could make decisions more easily because data could be processed quickly, efficiently, accurately.
Yeah, and that really changed the way that jobs could be done. So no longer was it really necessary for you to have that amazing brain that you could memorize your 12 times table on. So that's our calculator, and we said goodbye to it. And what started to become more important was what you could do with all that data, how companies and governments could see patterns and trends in that data. And it allowed governments, for example, to predict how a population was changing in a particular town or a city, and then they could plan in where, when, and how to build schools and hospitals and road and all kinds of other infrastructure.
And it made a big difference, as well as the jobs women did in the workplace. Before this technology came in, the word computer was used to describe an actual human being whose role it was to do calculations. Gareth, I think we might have a picture we can show people. Lovely. These jobs were often done by women. The job involved using pencils, notebooks, and weeks of time for every single calculation. Often different teams of computers would complete the same calculation to reduce the amount of errors, and it was an extremely inefficient way of doing things and possibly a very tedious job as well. And yet without these women, NASA would have not been able to launch the space program that eventually resulted in the moon landings. You can imagine how accuracy was very important to make sure that happened. So Alan Shepard, he's on our screen. He will forever be known as the first American in space in 1961. John Glenn was the first American to orbit the Earth in 1962. The names of Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, they are much less well known, but they were the leading computers of the time, and their work helped both launch the astronauts and keep them safe until they landed back on Earth. Nothing would have been achievable without everyone coming together.
We're jumping now forward from 1962 to 2022, and tonight's Careers Live brings everything right up to date as we're exploring the world of data science and data analytics. Now, compared to those old pictures, the purpose remains exactly the same. It's all about helping people make great decisions that really matter to the lives of others. But the technology and the skills to make that happen have changed a lot. And it's not just the skills that have changed, but also the way we're learning those skills. There's always more than one way to find a career that's right for you. And this is what tonight is all about. So some of you may be going on to university before stepping into the world of work, but some of you may be also considering learning whilst you earn through an apprenticeship. And we've created this experience for students and also for mums and dads and carers alike, because for students, it's a space for you to discover and learn about new careers and meet people working in these jobs to figure out if it's really right for you. And for mums and dads and caregivers, it's a chance to learn how a big organization such as Lloyds recruits and trains and develops its colleagues to be the leaders of tomorrow. Now, tonight we're joined by colleagues from Lloyds who are going to help us learn more about careers in data science and analytics and hear more about how this profession underpins so much of what we do in our company, but not just in our company, also in companies all across the UK and indeed all across the world. And as you'll see, data powers decision-making, and we're going to show you how one of the huge construction projects underway in Lloyds Banking Group to design a workspace of the future involves lots of costly decisions that you wouldn't want to get wrong. And so it's all powered by data. And you may be thinking, data science and analytics sounds only like the kind of place that mathematicians can thrive and survive. And we hope to show you otherwise. So Gareth, I think we've got a slide showing everybody what our evening is going to look like. So we're going to spend a little bit of time introducing some guests exploring the world of data science and analytics. We're going to look at how you can develop a career in data. We're going to have a chat with Simon, who's going to tell us about some real world application of how we use data here in Lloyds Banking Group to take on some very big, chunky decisions. And we're going to explore apprenticeships in data analytics as well. So lots to come in the 50 minutes left to run.
Absolutely. And although we've brought along some special guests, we do not want tonight to be all about answering the things that, well, we do want tonight to be all about the things that are on your mind and not just hearing from our special guests. You can pop any questions into the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. We have live captioning running this event on Zoom, so if you need that feature, be sure to activate it now. Ian, I think it's time to put Zoom through its paces and test everyone's ability to use the chat and the emoticons. I know, Ian, you're joining us from Cannon's House, one of our offices in the centre of Bristol. So let's find out where you're all joining us from tonight. Why not type in the chat, let us know, and we'll see who's closest and who's furthest away.
Yeah, let's have a look then. So we've got, let's have a read. We've got North Manchester. Have we got anybody going north? Because we know it's been raining up in Balmoral and that area today. We've got Coventry. There's Edinburgh in there. Royal Leamington Spa, it's a lovely place as well. And Stratford, Coventry, Weston-super-Mare. So I'm going to give a big cheer because I'm down in the West Country. I'm in the harbour side of Bristol today, but we're going to give a cheer for Weston-super-Mare. I'll go with that one. And Newport, hello to Wales, and St Helens. So we've got lots of different people. So great. So we know that you all know how to use the chat, and you can also use emoticons as well. So if you're hearing something that you like, then you can use those too, okay? And Faye, I feel we need to now find out a bit about everybody who's joining us this evening. So should we try out some polls as well? Okay, so in our first poll, we're going to ask you what stage of education you're in right now. So I can see some people are already quick on the button there. So that way we get an idea of how we can shape the answers that we give. So whether you're currently studying towards your GCSEs, or A-levels, or whether you're at university or just doing something else, it just gives us an idea. So we've got a lot of people who are currently at university or just waiting to return because all of the freshers' fairs and things are probably due to start soon. So, yeah, and a few people already in full-time employment as well, maybe looking to understand how they can develop their career. Fantastic. Thank you. And Faye, we've got one more question for them.
We do. We are curious to know how you found out about the event this evening. It helps us to improve how we let people know about it. So the poll's about to appear. Can you let us know how you found out about the event? Lovely. Social media seems to be big. It's definitely taking the lead here. Bit of word of mouth. A few people have attended previously. Brilliant. Welcome back.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, and we're always curious as well. So to understand what social media channels are the good ones for us to let you know about our events. So feel free to drop some of those in the chat as well, so we know how to reach you better in the future. Fantastic. So Faye, I think it's now time we're going to introduce everybody to the team who's going to be supporting us this evening.
Absolutely. So in the background, we have Gareth, our event producer. Now he makes all of the technology work for us in the background. And we have Sharon from our apprenticeships team who helps us answer your questions in the chat. We're also joined by our colleagues Lauren, Simon, Ellen, and Amanda. Remember, you can ask your own questions, just pop them in the chat at any time, and anything that we can't answer today, we will find out, we will get back to you, so do ask away. There are no silly questions. This is all about giving you the insight you really want and need.
Absolutely. And if you're not feeling very familiar with the phrase data science or data analytics, don't worry, because I want to know about it as well. And that's why we invited our guests. It's one of those careers that's leapt forward during the time of the pandemic and become one of the fastest growing career areas in the UK right now. And demand is outstripping supply right now, not just in the UK, but in other countries as well, and forecast to do so over the next couple of years. So here to tell us more about the sector and why it's a great place to learn are Lauren and Ranil from Lloyds Banking Group. And first up, we've got some questions, I think, for Ranil. Good evening. And where are you joining us from today, Ranil?
Hi, Ian. I'm based in London, so I'm in Gresham Street in London.
Fantastic. And you've not been with Lloyds Banking Group for an awful long period of time, have you? So you've carved your experience out in different places.
Yeah, no, so I joined Lloyds Banking Group about less than a year ago, so 9 months ago. Before that, I ran data and analytics for a different bank, HSBC. I was based in London, and then before that, Hong Kong. And then I worked for another British bank in Singapore, Standard Chartered, for a few years. And then I started most of my career in Australia. So data and analytics and data science, it's taken me all over the world.
Fantastic. So we talk about data science and data analytics, and they sound quite technical phrases. So how would we describe this, what this is all about in kind of plain words?
So in plain words, how I'd describe it is, and we can be purist about the difference between data science and data analytics, but in general, a data scientist is someone that is really using algorithms and models to run those over data and really predict things. So really, it's about trying to work out what's going to happen using algorithms based on what's happened in the past. A data analyst, less about the predictions, but more about understanding what's going on now, trying to group things together, trying to, kind of paint a world based on data is how I'd describe the two things.
Excellent. So carving out your career within this sector that's taking you all the way around the world, then you must like it a lot. So what makes you so passionate about working in this space?
So look, I really, really believe passionately that data is a force for good, and that actually if we use data properly, and if we have data scientists and data analysts exploiting data, we can have a much better society. So fairer outcomes. We'll know. Solving crimes, solving, criminal activity, trying to work through where to place hospitals, how to really optimize how, transport works, how to solve for, the, net zero future that we all want, right? So data has an immense role to play in that, and data scientists and data analysts, they're at the forefront of that. They're actually, basically using their skills to make a better world. So it's one of the few roles where you could genuinely say, actually, you're going to make a difference, right? So the thing at the start, Ian, where we're living in this world of data, and you mentioned that we're facing a shortage over the next few years. It's for the next few decades, right? So we're moving to this world where data is all pervasive. Like literally every aspect of our life is basically data driven, right? Or it produces data. And so the role of data scientists and data analysts to really exploit that and, give understand is immense. And there is just the demand is, it's an insane amount of demand, right? So we will never have enough data scientists and data analysts over the next 20 years. And so there's this real kind of recognition that, training people, upskilling them in this space is going to be a huge focus for society. So anyone that's considering a career in this space, you've got a really bright future ahead, a future where you're going to be in so much demand, for decades is really how I'd see it. And at the forefront of using, artificial intelligence and machine learning, I mean, it's one of the safest roles and jobs of the future is how I'd put it.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well, isn't it? Because already you can see how it's going to continue evolving and morphing with AI as well in there as well. So maybe people thinking, so I've got this guy, I've got this gentleman who's come along tonight and he knows an awful lot about data and things. But how did you get started in this space, and what got you hooked?
Yeah, it was really random actually. So I when I was at high school, and I always wanted to be a chemical engineer, and I graduated from university, and that's what I did for. I realized after a few months, I don't really like it, and so I was very fortunate. I got into a graduate program, and in my first graduate rotation, I was working in a marketing team where I had to work on data. I had to work on, it was called database marketing back then, and it was basically about going through all these customer records, using statistics, and trying to predict who would buy our credit cards. And I was just hooked. It was quite amazing. It's like, wow, you build this model, and then you predict something. And the thing I want to really highlight is I'd never done this sort of work before, right? So I was, background was more engineering. I wasn't amazing at maths, But I was quite curious. I did like to sort of think about what things could possibly predict someone doing something. And I had a bit of a investigative mind rather than a mathematical mind. And that's kind of what really got me hooked on, trying to really predict things using data. And I just kind of really loved it. It was just such a, kind of a, wow, that's cool. I can build a model and it predicts things that actually turn out to be true. So I got really hooked on that and decided to really follow that. And then what happened is over that 20-year period, data became huge. I mean, it just got really big where all of a sudden, every single device in the world is streaming data. And then the cost of storing data and crunching through it with compute became really cheap. So all of a sudden, it's become this amazing career. So very lucky. I wish I could say I chose it, but it's more I fell into it. And
it chose me.
Yes.
It's a career it chose me, and so curiosity is an interesting thing. I just want to introduce Lauren as well, who's here. Oh, hello, we've got all three. It's fantastic. So Lauren, we heard earlier on about the NASA astronauts and how their success, because they're the household names, was actually powered mostly by women who were computing all of that data. And it is true, I think, isn't it, that a lot of tech careers are still kind of like got that feel of being quite male dominated. So what do you think? Data analytics is a good place for young women to make a mark?
Yeah, huge, to put it in one word, right? Yeah, as you've said, a lot of the original computers or some of the success stories we saw across what we view as typically STEM kind of roles, science, technology, engineering, maths, were actually women. If I look back at a lot of my heroes, they were women. And then we saw this switch around when computers started to become more popular and tech was a buzzword to see a more male dominated industry. And as you've both touched on there, shortfall across the world for decades to come, but there's room for everyone. So I don't want people to think 'cause I'm a woman in tech, I'm here trying to just focus on women, but there is more of a shortfall in women and non-binary colleagues coming into tech roles. So it's a shame that we've seen that turnabout, but there is space for everyone. As Renil's just said, we need all of you to kind of come and work in tech. And I think particularly for me as a woman who's often been the lone woman in tech teams, it does sadden me to think that we wouldn't have that diversity, because actually our power is in being truly inclusive. Particularly as a bank, you want to understand all of the customers you serve. You can only do that if you've got representation in these teams from all backgrounds.
Yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? Now, from the outside, and I know I was at a school in South Bristol today and we were talking about this career sector, it sounds on the outside as if it's something where you need that head for numbers. And I was reflecting that what I learned from Renil was actually curiosity and a desire to question why is also quite important. But for those who are thinking this is a place that only those excelling in maths can manage to thrive and survive, what would be your thoughts?
I mean, if I could go first on this, I've got a very strong opinion on this, in that some of the best people in my team that I've hired all over the world, right, have not had mathematics or computer science backgrounds. So when I was in Australia, one of my star employees, like the woman that ran our cards analytics team, she was an acrobat before she became a data scientist. And, I mean, so actually had, didn't have that background. But I think the one thing I'd say is, so you need to be curious. And it's also an area where you want to be sort of always learning. So it's something where, if I think about everything I do today, 3 years ago, none of that stuff really existed. Like, it hadn't been invented, right? So it's an area where there's a lot of change. So as long as you're curious and you're open to learning new things, it doesn't really matter what your background is. And, we've trained all sorts of people in data science, whether they're people that work in contact centers and the branch network, and they've been able to bring something to that role. So it's definitely one where I'd say, don't be afraid. Don't feel that it's for, basically mathematicians or, they're obviously the very high end roles for those, but definitely if you're interested, you can make a start. And I assure you'll find it very interesting, but also opens up a world of opportunity. So it's definitely one we can give it a go.
Fantastic. So I know I've got a few moments left, and I've got a question coming in on the chat there, which maybe Lauren, you might want to start off with, which is, what's been the most exciting project that you've worked on in data? If you're allowed to say, okay, so we're amongst friends, hopefully it's not too secret.
Yeah, I'll pick one actually that was probably my first predictive task. I was running a data science team first time I came up through engineering, like Renil, but nuclear engineering. And we were looking at, as a bank, we have this wealth of delivery data. Lloyds has a massive data. It's a really exciting place to work if you're a data nerd like me and Renil, because we've got a lot of data to get stuck into. And we were looking at ways that you could use that data to give an informed view of delivery. So we use RAG, we use that in right from schools, right? Red, amber, green, red being bad, green being good. And we were like, why don't we use data to inform that? Because actually RAGs are subjective, they're independent, and you can get much more granular if you use data. So we created a health score to look at project health and also then predict, because we've got a history, as Renil said, we can then start to predict where projects might go wrong. It was the first kind of data science prediction I ever developed with my team, so that has a special place in my heart.
Oh, fantastic. Renil, we've got probably time for maybe one or two more questions, maybe one, I'll see how we go. But we've got another question coming in here about what are the most, so when you're looking to hire people for roles in data, what are the kind of things that you're looking for? Qualities, I guess, rather than technical qualifications.
Sure,
what are
sure.
the qualities that you look for?
Yeah, so what I always look for is curiosity, right? So someone that's quite curious about things and questions. That's really important. Someone that can really demonstrate that they're open to learning new things, because that's definitely going to be something they'll have to do. And then also, I'd say, passion, right? So, basically passion and, kind of drive to, take a whole bunch of data and make something of it, right? So, you need to have that kind of passion around that. So those are the three things that I look for over and above like technicals. And often, like if people have those three traits, regardless of their technical skills, I'll know that they can actually learn as they go and actually become really good. But if you're passionate, you're curious, and you're open to learning, you're going to do really well in this field.
Yeah, and I guess to your point, which is, this is a sector that's going to continue to evolve. So you're always going to need to continue to invest in your skills anyway, but without the curiosity and the passion for doing so, then that evolution of the industry won't take place. I am so sorry that our time is almost coming to an end on this section, but I want to thank you both for taking some time out for your busy schedules. And Lauren, I know that back in March, you hosted just over there a very special event in Bristol, right across the square from where I am now at We the Curious Science Centre. Young Data Minds was all about changing our perceptions of what we think we can do and what we can be in life. So why don't we take a look at that video, Gareth?
So Young Data Minds is all about encouraging women, non-binary, LGBTQ+, everyone who's diverse, into careers in science, technology, engineering, art and maths. It was a mixture of keynote speakers and interactive sessions where those that were attending could really get a feel for what a career actually could look like now and in the future in STEM.
I think it's so important that we have a generation of diverse thinking both in the world of tech, but broadly in terms of how we think about society. The lack of boundaries between them is going to be really, really important for us broadly. So I wanted to add my voice, my thoughts and experience on that as well.
I think the students here today have an amazing opportunity to build the future world that we live in. And I acknowledge, as somebody that works in the technology industry, the lack of diversity that we've seen over the years in this space. And so I wanted to take part today to fix this at the root cause and excite the students here today about how they could go on and achieve a career in technology and change that lack of diversity that we have in the sector today.
It was fantastic to host our first session in Bristol, and I'm really keen to hold more events here, but I also want to see how we can take it across the country too.
What a great film. That looks like a fantastic event. So thank you, Lauren. I want to introduce you to someone who's starting out in their own career in this space, pursuing an apprenticeship in data analytics with Lloyds Banking Group. So I'd like to welcome Ellen Council.
Hey.
Hi, Ellen. So can you tell us what you were doing before you started your apprenticeship?
Yes, so I had a bit of a lots of different things going on. So I actually started studying drama at university. So I know, like we were saying earlier, you don't have to have this like mathematical brain or like mindset and history. So I studied drama at uni. I left there and I worked in retail, I worked in bars, loads of different jobs across the board. And then I fell into banking. So my friend got a job actually at TSB, working on the phones, and she said they were hiring. So I joined there, working on the phones in TSB, just taking inbound telephony. Tried a few different jobs at TSB then, and eventually come across to communications and events. I thought I wanted to be an events planner. And I actually found out that what I enjoyed most about that was monitoring our website. So that was what got me then into data analytics. So with all of our communications and all of our events, we started looking at click volumes on our website, what was actually gaining interest, what wasn't. And that, that triggered me to then go into data analytics and understand that more and find out more about it. So that's then when I applied for the apprenticeship at Lloyds.
Brilliant. And if you were to think about your day-to-day work and the things you do, what kind of skills do you think help you really thrive in this role?
I'd honestly say it's more problem solving than anything. Like every task I'm given, it's solving a problem, or even if the task itself isn't solving a problem, what you've been asked to do is in order for someone else to solve a problem elsewhere. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, because if even throughout creating a visual, so my job itself is to create dashboards. I work in visualization side of data analytics, and even as you're doing that, you'll come across little things that aren't working. So the calculations on the data aren't working quite as you thought they would. So it's going into the script and thinking, why is this not working? What am I missing here? And it's all that problem solving mindset, and similar to what Reneel said earlier, that curiosity to understand what's happening, why is this needed, what's not working, what can I do that's going to help. That's definitely the biggest thing you need, well, from my experience.
Brilliant. And if we then bring it to life in terms of your kind of day-to-day and decisions, what kind of decisions get made based on the work that you do?
So it can be a whole wealth of things, to be honest. The way I work, so it's almost like a contractor. So somebody, a stakeholder within the bank will come to me and say, we've got this problem, or we've got this situation, and we need you to produce the data or to produce a dashboard to tell us what we should do. So it can be things like FTE, so like full-time employment levels. If there's a project coming up and you need to understand how are we going to work this project, how many people do we need to support this project, the data and the dashboard that I could create could actually help the team understand that and then help with that sort of hiring process.
Brilliant. And you slightly touched on this, but then what is the impact, would you say? Because as human beings, we thrive on making some form of an impact. What would you say the impact is on the business in terms of what you do?
I say it's always customer focused in the long term. Everything we do is going to help the customer in one way or another, or at least that's the intention. So at the moment I work in a risk division. So we're monitoring risk, monitoring if our frontline colleagues are, if for example, if they are asked for a loan from a particular business, have they completed all of the checks that they need to satisfy our risk level as a bank? If they haven't, then there's going to be some sort of upset for the customer in one way or another. So it's monitoring that. As long as they've completed everything and we know that they have, then we know the customer's going to be happy with the outcome because everything's being processed correctly. And that's just like one side of it. But yeah, essentially everything's always customer focused. And you think, even though I'm quite detached from the customer, I'd never speak to a customer personally, you know that that's the end goal. So you're always thinking of that, to think, how are we helping people here?
That's great. And just looking at some of the questions coming up in the chat, there's a lot about how this works. So can you tell us how the apprenticeship works, your experience of that?
Yeah, of course. So I applied for the apprenticeship online, and one of the reasons I applied was because I didn't, like I said earlier, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was sort of stumbling around in life thinking, do I want to be an actress? Do I want to be an events planner? I don't know what it is. And yeah, I enjoyed that side of things, like I said, on the website. So looked into that, but the graduate scheme, I think there was one for commercial banking, one for data science. And I thought, I don't know enough about data science, and commercial banking was quite wide. So then I saw the data analytics apprenticeship, and it said you didn't need any experience in data analytics. And I thought, is that true? Is it not, sort of thing? But looked into it, and it absolutely was exactly that. So everybody that actually got hired, so there was a group of us that all started together. I think it was 6 of us. Not a single one of us had worked in data before. One of my colleagues had a degree in history, another one had a degree in psychology, and one of them didn't have a degree at all. They'd just been working in retail and thought, I want to try something new. And you train up on the job. So we were given a job as a data analyst in Lloyds, and that took up 80% of our working time. But Lloyds were also putting us through the apprenticeship, and that took up 20% of our time. And so you learn on the job and also online in order to then gain the qualifications to move forward.
Brilliant. And I think we've got time for just one more question. So what surprised you most about this role, the things you didn't expect that hit you when you started?
Yeah, I think honestly it's probably the main skill set that you need. So going into it, I thought I'm going to have to really learn how to code. I'm going to have to get out of my comfort zone and learn all these like data science and Python and all of this stuff. And I started to learn it, but for my role, because I'm data analytics and visualization, it wasn't actually at the core of everything I needed to do. And I could actually take a step back and realize it's the other qualities that both myself and my colleagues had in what I said earlier, that problem solving, that curiosity and even creativity. With creating dashboards, you're thinking, my end user need to see this and instantly see what's going on. So you need to display the visualizations in a way that's creative and that the user is going to be able to understand and straight away get the information they want. So yeah, it was more so how many different elements and qualities there are to being a data analyst. That's not just maths and science and coding.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for that insight. Ian, over to you. I think you're going to introduce our next guest.
I am, yeah. And, I'm here tonight in Bristol. It's just starting to get a little bit dark out there, but I can't actually work out whether that's the rain that's coming down tonight or whatever in there. But I'm inside one of Lloyds Banking Group's offices in Bristol. If you've ever been to Bristol in the harbour side, you'll know some of the iconic buildings that we have in the harbour side in Bristol. And as you also know, during the pandemic, lots of us had to work and study from home. Now, as we come out of the pandemic, many offices where people once worked 5 days a week are changing to fit the way that people now need to work. So designing all of these workplaces of the future is a costly business. And once again, it's data that powers decision making. And here to explain how we're using data analytics in real life in Lloyds, joining me from all the way up in Edinburgh is Simon Beckwith. Good evening to you, Simon.
Ian, you well?
Yeah, I am. So you're joining us from Port Hamilton, I think, if that's right. One of our biggest, is that one of our biggest buildings? The biggest building in Edinburgh. It's certainly quite imposing, isn't it?
Yeah, the biggest we have in Edinburgh, but probably one of the biggest in the estate, but not quite the biggest.
Yeah, I know it certainly is quite imposing when you come up from the street level and into that atrium there. So I'm in here in Cannon's House, which is a much loved landmark in the centre of Bristol and will be. And we hear a lot about the way that these buildings are changing. So how are you using data to figure out what the bank actually needs for the future? And I think Gareth's got some slides that he's going to put up for us to help explain these.
Yeah, it's a great question. And as the slide shows, I guess data is showing us that there's a much bigger trend post-COVID towards home working. So one of the things that we're trying to understand through the data that we use is how much space in our offices should be put towards things like collaboration. How do we promote well-being, but also productivity, and thinking about how do we leverage technology to make sure that colleagues are more productive, but also how do we make our buildings more sustainable? So we look at data from kind of occupancy to, how much energy we use and all the different things that we can do. And then we think about the different types of zones that we have. So collaboration spaces where you'll have more kind of interactive meetings, to more task desks where kind of library style, you'll get your head down and sort of work through how we do it. And data underpins every single one of those decisions, really.
Yeah, so these sound like really huge projects where you're using all kinds of different data really to be able to work out that long-term strategy.
Yeah, it is. And I think if you look at the roadmap, I guess all of it starts with a bit of a what is our plan? But actually, all of that is founded on what is the data that sits behind it. So, how many colleagues do we have in a city? How many colleagues are actually using the office? When they come in, how often are they coming in? So, are they coming in sort of ad hoc once or twice a week, or are they in 5 days a week? Because typically, if you've got colleagues in 5 days a week, they're in there to do sort of a certain task. Whereas if colleagues are coming in more on a rotational basis, they're kind of different types of work when they're in the office at home. So once we've got that data, we then look at our city strategies, we then understand how different divisions work, and then we start to engage with the divisions around some of the data that we've seen, validate that data with them to make sure we've interpreted it correctly, and then think about how we would design and effectively stand up a new building or a new space for colleagues to use to make sure that they're at the best when they're in the office or at home.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of new things that you're trying out with design. The office I'm in at the moment, it's got all sorts of buttons, and I feel a bit like James Bond. I'm a bit nervous to press some of them because I'm not quite sure if I'm on the ejector seat on there. So here we are in Cannon's house in Bristol, and I started my head office career here with Lloyds in this building, and people can get quite emotionally attached to places. So how does data help you to separate, I think Lauren touched on it earlier, that kind of subjective guesswork and feelings from reality to make those quite tough decisions, really?
Yeah, it's a great question, and you're right about sort of that emotional attachment to offices. So, in Bristol, for example, we've made an announcement. We're actually closing one of the offices, the one that you're in, and we're moving to the one that's just down the road in Harbourside. And this is just a bit of a visual that we use, firstly to show kind of the different types of businesses that work in the offices, but also think about kind of that utilization. And one of the big myths that a lot of the divisions say to us is that, oh, but we had people in, we've got, we need 100 desks, we've got 100 people and they're in every day. But what we can say in data is, well, that's interesting because data shows us that there's only on average 50 people in a day. So actually, we only need you need less space than you did before. And this sort of kind of myth, I guess, of everyone needs a desk kind of goes, because if you're only in the office a couple of days a week, it's not cost effective if you think about it that way, or energy effective to just have a desk for everyone that might go in on a day on things like that. So actually, through data, you're able to say, I get that you've got 100 people. But actually, when you look at it, those 100 people are not coming in every day. On average, it's about 40 or 50. So we're going to reduce the space, put more collaboration space in so that when they do come in, they can do different tasks than maybe what they would do at home.
I think what's really interesting when we've been talking is how many different factors go into a decision like this, the space occupancy, but also the carbon footprint and the ability of the space to sustain different styles of working, which you're hoping to try and achieve in the new move over to the Harbourside building.
Yeah, and I think all of those factors are all different parts of it. There's not one single decision that says that's the right thing to do. It's about a factor of everything, and that means that some of those are a little bit trade-offs. But the one, so I lead sustainability for the group in terms of our own emissions. So that kind of carbon footprint is something that's really important for us to get sort of down as much as we can. So that's a big factor in sort of how efficient are our buildings and how do we make them more efficient if we've not got them. But also more importantly, because there's less people using them, we don't want people isolated when they're in buildings. So actually bringing teams together and working closer together is a really key part of some of the things that we want to do. And that forms the decision making. But as I say, it's not one single thing. It's actually a multitude of different sort of data points that form all of the decisions that we do.
Yeah, but all that move away from that, the feelings about a building and into the reality of what's actually happening. So,
That's right.
so there's a few people on the stream this evening who are probably firstly surprised that you can work for a bank and be working in property and architecture and design and construction project management. Who knew that these things as well as data existed inside Lloyds Banking Group?
Yeah, and I think it's so I work in our what we call a future workplace team, and I look after engagement with our divisions. So I've got people that go out and speak to the divisions who are very sort of outgoing, interactive people. I've got sustainability in my world as well. So we look at things like our carbon footprint, and we've got some really technical guys that understand carbon and energy and the way that buildings work. And then I also do something called workplace adoption. So how do we get our colleagues to be more productive with Microsoft products? And also when they're in the office being sort of able to be more productive adapt to things that we do there. So lots of varied roles even within my team. But you're absolutely right, you know, across the group, if you think about how many Lloyds or Halifax or Bank of Scotland branches you see on the high street, all of those need running. And then on top of that, we've got our head office buildings, and we're in, you know, over 20 towns and cities in the UK. So you're right, it's not just about the day-to-day banking, but actually how do we support the infrastructure of the tens of thousands of colleagues that work in our customer-facing areas as well as our head offices. So certainly a multitude, yeah. Really
yeah,
good.
amazing, and look forward to our move. So I think later in the autumn, it'll be the time for Cannon's House to take a little bit of a retirement before moving on to some new owners. It'll always still be an iconic building, of course, in the centre of Bristol. It'll retire after 30 years of service, and we get to move into that new exciting space, which in my lens is over that way. Over in Harbourside in Bristol. So we look forward to seeing the new space that you're going to design for us. But Simon, thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you.
So you may be thinking this sounds a bit complex, but don't forget, whether you decide to go straight into work through an apprenticeship or university, you will always have training, you will have coaching, you will be supported to learn a new role. And for those of you still wondering if this is just a job that suits people who are fantastic at maths, I want to introduce you to Amanda, who is an apprentice on our Level 4 Data Analytics apprenticeship. And Amanda, you went off to university, but you didn't study maths, and you did an apprenticeship. So can you tell us about that journey?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda. I studied literature at university. It was something I absolutely loved. I couldn't see myself not studying it when I was at uni. So I went down that path thinking I was going to be a teacher, and I was going to be teaching English literature right now. And I did study it and I did love it. And I worked as a teacher for a little while and just kind of decided this isn't for me. I want to do something totally different. And similar to some of the other stories we've heard today, I kind of thought, well, I didn't study math. I'm not really good at math. I don't have any experience in data or computers. There's no way I'm going to be able to make this shift. That just sounds way too crazy. But I started doing some research and realized that apprenticeships are pretty much made for people who think that, because you get all of the training when you're at work, and you can work and you can learn at the same time, which as someone who had already been working, I couldn't imagine taking time off to do another degree or something like that. It didn't seem right for me. So I was really, really glad to find this path, even after all the years that I'd spent doing something else.
Brilliant. And what kind of support did you get to complete your studies and complete this journey?
All of us apprentices, and as you know, we heard earlier, you kind of come in with a cohort. So all of us apprentices get quite a lot of support, both from our team and our line managers, but also from something called the apprenticeship provider, which has like a one-on-one mentor involved. So you definitely have support for learning on the job from your line manager and your team. And then you also have support for learning with your learning mentor. I'd say the only caveat to that is they don't always talk to each other. You're kind of the medium. So you have to keep both informed about what's going on at work and what's going on with your apprenticeship. So although you might not need a maths degree to do a data analyst apprenticeship, communication skills are still really important. So definitely bring those with you.
That's great. That's great. And because you are working and you're studying at the same time, how challenging did you find that? Or was it a piece of cake?
Yeah, I definitely think the balance can be difficult sometimes, and to find the time to do both, because your line manager is giving you projects that obviously it's important for the business, it's important for your team, and then you've kind of got this outside studying that's important for you and important for your apprenticeship. So balancing the two of them can be really difficult. And you have to be really clear about your time and set time aside for both. And I think I was told that at the interview, and I didn't know what that meant. I was like, well, of course you do. That makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, just schedule your time. But it can be a little bit more complicated when in practice, because things will come up. You'll get an email from someone and they say, please, can you do this right now? And you're thinking, oh, but I set aside 2 hours to do apprenticeship work, so it can be a juggle. But It's completely doable, and everyone respects if you say, sorry, I can't do that today. I've got to do this project that's due next week or something, which is really what you need.
Brilliant. And if you think about the apprenticeship journey, so from the time that you applied to going through that whole apprenticeship piece, working, learning, etc., what are the tips that you can think of that would be really useful for our audience?
Tips. I think when I feel like there's this period of time that you kind of have a steep learning curve, and you think you're starting from nothing, you don't know what you're doing, and the temptation is to not ask anyone because you don't want to bother them, and to try to figure it out yourself, either from Google or reading the books that are given to you through your apprenticeship. I would definitely say ask as many questions as you can, obviously with some level of trying to figure it out yourself, and then go ask questions of the people on your team, because it doesn't help anybody for you to waste an entire day on something that you never end up figuring out. So it's really better to ask questions, be open and understanding that you're probably going to take a while to learn the skills that you need to learn, but everyone's ready to be patient, for you to learn that, as well as you should be. And don't be afraid as well to jump in feet first and say, okay, I would like to take on something. I really want to learn this. Let's figure out something for me to do, because ultimately that's what you're here for, is to learn and to take on as much as you can. So definitely that's my tip for sure.
Brilliant. And I think we've got time for one more question. There's a really good question that's come into the chat. How has working with data changed your approach to life in general?
That's a great question. Well, I think understanding what happens to your data after you've entered it somewhere has actually been a really interesting journey, because I think there's some idea that we're using the data for evil or something, but actually it's like someone said earlier, mostly just to make businesses run better, to give you better products, to understand what's going on more clearly. And I think that's been interesting to know. And now I have so many questions about every business I walk into. I'm thinking, I wonder who thought of this? I wonder what kind of algorithm that they ran for this one. So it is really interesting to have this knowledge now.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Yeah, and I that was a great section. And Amanda, I'm really struck by, it's back to what Ranil was saying earlier on about curiosity. Once curiosity gets you, then you're curious wherever you are, really.
That's
it must be tricky, even just going out and just doing shopping and just seeing something again. I wonder how they did that.
You definitely see everything differently, and have a lot more questions. And if you meet another data person out in the world somewhere, you find yourself getting in long conversations that other people are thinking, what are they talking about? But it's really interesting. It opens all kinds of new worlds and new things that you never would have thought of.
That's awesome. So Amanda, thank you so much. And remember, you can keep asking questions in the chat. Sharon from our apprenticeship team is going to answer as many of those questions as she can for you as well. Now, over the past few years, the choice for those of you who are leaving school or college at 18 has increased, and apprenticeships are becoming more and more popular. And this year in Lloyds Banking Group, we're welcoming our 10,000th apprentice. And we don't stop there, because to date, over 700 apprentices who work for 400 small businesses across the UK have also started their journey with our help. And so here's John Banks to tell us a little bit more about how you can become a data science or data analytics apprentice with Lloyds Banking Group.
So hi folks, yes, I'm John. I'm an apprenticeship manager at Lloyds Banking Group. And thanks so much for joining us today. I hope you've had a good time so far. I often get asked about the roles that we offer in the data space. So I'll just tell you a little bit about them and let you know what the application process looks like. So we have 4 apprenticeships offered across the group in the data space, and typically we recruit into the level 3 data technician and the level 4 data analyst apprenticeship. So both of these programs are around 18 months in duration, and you learn about types and formats of data, the value and role of data, communicating and presenting data, data modeling, and then I guess bringing data to life through meaningful storytelling. So as I say, the programme itself will take you around 18 months. However, all of our apprenticeship roles are permanent positions. So after the end of your apprenticeship, once you've successfully achieved, you're a full-time colleague in a data role at Lloyds, and you'll then potentially have the opportunity to develop further by undertaking a degree or even a master's apprenticeship in data analytics, which are the other two programmes we offer in the group. So in terms of joining Lloyds Banking Group, I'm often asked about the application and assessment process. And I guess the first thing to say is generally applicants could be asked when applying for an apprenticeship position for A-levels or maths and English GCSEs up front. So at Lloyds Banking Group, we do it a little bit different, and we recruit based on motivation and strength. So we don't ask for any upfront quals. And if you haven't gained your English and maths at GCSE, for example, we support you to study for an equivalent alongside your apprenticeship programme. In terms of your application, the very first stage is to pop in an application. And if you're doing a level 3 apprenticeship, that will be stage 1 done. So typical application form. If it's a level 4 application, we would ask you to do some additional online tests as well, which would consist of a numerical reasoning test and a situational strengths test. Once we have step 1 under our belts, next stage would be a formal interview. So again, if it's a level 3 application, that would be the final stage. So it could be a face-to-face, a telephone, or a video interview. If, however, you do go on to apply for a level 4 data apprenticeship role, we then invite you to an assessment day following your interview. Now, at that assessment day, it's a great day, by the way. It's done virtually. It's kind of made up of a series of exercises. So you'll do a group exercise, you'll do a series of individual exercises, and then a presentation on the day. And if you are successful at that stage, we'll offer you a role at Lloyds Banking Group. And I guess the biggest tip I can give to you when you're at the day or at any stage of the process, whether that be interview, is just to be yourself, essentially. So we really buy personality, and we really want to see the real you. And that's exactly what we'll be looking for through that selection and assessment process. So I guess finally from me, just so you know, when we advertise for vacancies, we typically run 2 campaigns through the year. So one launching in autumn, which will be for then starting within Lloyds Banking Group in March, and then a secondary campaign in spring, which would be for starts within the group in September. So I'd encourage you to visit lloydsbankinggrouptalent.com, which was the site I was just showing you through the application process. And on the site, you can see all of those details, but you can also register your interest as well and receive an email update for when the campaigns are about to launch. And I guess very last tip from me is just remember that at the group, we recruit people based on their motivation and strengths and not their experience. So please bear that in mind. And I guess all that's left for me to say is I wish you the very best of luck with your future career, whatever path you decide to take. And thanks so much for listening today.
We've learned from all our guests this evening that data science is one of the fastest growing and most diverse career paths right now, and that it's not all about number crunching, but helping companies to make great decisions, as well as keeping data super safe. In the UK alone, there are estimated to be 250,000 vacancies in the sector, and we expect that number to grow. And as the supply of graduates with ready-made skills is just too small, it doesn't keep pace with demand. So whether you're looking to join straight from school, through an apprenticeship, or after university, there is a lot of opportunity out there. But remember, it's not just the data skills to thrive in these roles. 1/4 of businesses who employ graduates with data skills say they need to also develop leadership and communication skills. And those developing within the industry may branch out into more advanced statistics and modelling, or major in data visualization, or even machine learning, robotics, and artificial intelligence. It's not a space that's going to stay still for long. So if you like a variety and you like the challenge of always having something new to learn, explore, and try, this may be right for you.
Faye, I find it hard to believe that we have only 5 minutes left and it's really flown by, hasn't it? So before we go, let's have a few more quick polls. So Gareth, if you could do the honours, please, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the most confident, how well do you understand opportunities for careers in data science and data analytics? Let's have a quick look at how we're doing on response. Okay, we've got 4s and 5s. Interesting. Yeah, good. Okay, interesting outcome. And so on our final poll then for this evening, thank you, Gareth, is on a scale of 1 to 5. There we are. I think a career in data science and analytics could, we're not going to hold you to it, could be right for me. Remember, part of what we're trying to do in Lloyds Careers Live is to help you understand what the career is like. So it doesn't, if what we've done here has helped you to go, actually, I've understood it and it'll be right for somebody else, then that's still okay. But it looks like we've got good news for Ranil and for Lauren anyway, because it looks like we've definitely got some real fans of data science and analytics, and hopefully some willing recruits to come as well. So really interesting to see that response. Thank you, Faye.
Lovely. Well, I personally feel like I've learned so much about the world of data science and analytics today, and I hope everyone who's tuned in this evening has found it really, really useful. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining this evening and sharing their experiences. And before we go, let's take a look ahead to Lloyds Career Live for October. So we'll be back the first Tuesday of October, which is the 4th of October, exploring careers in software development. And like data science, this is another fast-growing space right now, an industry that is keen to see and welcome more female talent in particular. And the good news is there's a lot of space to get into this, even if you didn't choose to study computing or ICT at GCSE or A-level. So do come back in October and join our colleagues. It will be Damon and Amy who will be hosting that session. And if you really like to plan even further ahead, then our November Careers Live will focus on careers in accountancy and finance. And you can join our colleagues Kat and Mari who will be hosting in November.
And we've given you so much information tonight, and to help you out, we're going to flash up some QR codes. You can scan them on your phones, and we'll also put links in the chat as well. So another great resource we talked about for vacancies and what it's like to work at Lloyds and how we recruit is the Lloyds Banking Group talent website. So this is a treasure trove of information all about roles in Lloyds, apprenticeship and graduate schemes, and all our current vacancies are all on there. As John said, we hire in waves, so this is how to keep in touch with things. My favorite bit, don't miss it, is the virtual headquarters. You can explore so many different parts of Lloyds Banking Group, and there are so many things that we do, and I've learned a few things from virtual headquarters as well. And it doesn't end there. If you want some help and practical advice on CVs, interview skills, building your personal brand, then you'll want to be signing up for World of Work experience events, which we will be running in mid-October around the half-term holidays. They're free. They're all about helping you with employability craft. 97% of students who join World of Work say they would recommend it to others. And finally, the last two great resources, Association for Apprenticeships and Amazing Apprenticeships. These are websites that give lots of insight around apprenticeships, if that's the route that you're thinking of, and how to find them, whatever the employer or career sector that you're thinking of.
Lovely. So there are so many great resources. We have put all the links in the chat so you can copy them down easily. And don't forget, if you've missed anything at all in Careers Live tonight, you can catch the whole thing again from tomorrow on our Careers YouTube channel. Over on YouTube, you can also find out about our past events. You can watch those on cybersecurity and customer services, and there's even more useful resources as well. Ian, it has been a fantastic evening. It's gone so quickly, and we'll be handing the baton over to Damon and Amy next time to host a session about software development and technology.
Yeah, we're in safe hands with those guys. From all of us here at Lloyds Banking Group, we wish you the very best. And we wish you every success wherever your career takes you. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
What does success mean to us?
Success is making a difference.
For our customers and our communities.
Success is empowering people from the start.
Building their confidence.
Giving them tools to start their careers.
Success is putting our people first.
It's knowing when to listen.
And making the time to talk.
Success is supporting causes we care about.
It's getting involved.
All hands on deck.
Success is making banking better.
It's engineering a fairer future.
Making progress and leaving no one behind. Whatever shape it takes.
Success starts with us.